Alright, welcome. If you're new to the channel, my name's Elliott and you're watching Rickety Ski Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about something that's kind of been all over the news and kind of not. It's been leading up and it's been back and forth. But today I want to talk to you about the news that Lindsey Vonn is going to be rejoining the US ski team. She's coming under the new rule set by Marcel Hirscher that basically allows former World Cup racers to rejoin without having to go through the steps of losing their points and everything like that. It's kind of a weird rule that's new, and there was even speculation that Ted Rickety would do that, but then he went out of his way to point out that he's not going to be doing that. And it looks like Lindsey is only going to be competing in speed events. There's been speculation that, oh, well, is she taking someone else's spot? I believe the way the rule is going to work, that because of the logistics, that Mikaela Shiffrin has also announced that she's not going to be doing speed events, which I had a video talking about. I don't know why she's doing that. It's really risky. She had a crash last year that really set her back in her training. And it's yeah, I don't know why she does that. The risk reward wasn't that high versus Salomon GS. So I'm glad to see Mikaela's taking a break from speed. And if you think about the logistics there, Lindsey is basically just taking Mikaela's spot without having to have a full new person step down from the team. Now, there's not been a definitive answer from the US ski team as to whether or not Lindsey is actually taking someone else's spot, but I believe because Mikaela made her decision kind of later into the season, that logistically Lindsey's not taking anyone's spot. Now, I've seen a lot of armchair ski coaches in the comments talking about whether or not they think that's right, whether or not Lindsey should be competing, and I thought, okay, well, I was a college ski coach, which is nowhere near US ski team, but I'll be an armchair ski coach. Let me tell you what I think. There's obviously information that I won't have that the US ski team has and Lindsey Vonn has, so I'm gonna give my opinion based on what I know. My concerns, one, would be just that Lindsey is over 40, so there's more risk of injury. She just completed a surgery last year. I believe that she said in some of the comments that she has no cartilage left in her knees. So my big concern would just be her health and safety long-term. Hopefully she's able to compete in a safe way that's a low risk to long-term injury for her. I would assume that there are doctors and physical therapists that have looked this over that are smarter than me and have more information than me. So I'm going to trust that everyone's making the best decision they can here. But the real main concern I honestly have is for Lindsey Vonn as a person. I don't know her personally. We have a couple of mutual friends. I know I worked with the woman who does her video and photography, Claire, but I've never actually met and sat down with Lindsey one-on-one. So here's my thing that I'll say. This happens a lot with ski racing. I've seen people who are on the B team who didn't quite make the US ski team, and they would spend years and years and tens of thousands of dollars chasing this dream when it was okay, it's probably not going to happen at this point. My only concern is that if Lindsey is able to come back and race and do it well and do it safely, by all means, go for it. It's what do I know? She understands what's going on better than anyone. Her coaches and the people in her circle understand it better than anyone. Who am I to say she shouldn't be racing anymore? Obviously, somebody thinks she should. She thinks she should. And I would just trust that she's an expert. You know what I mean? She's one of the best of all time. She's one of the greats of all time. She understands it better than anyone. I will say, though, that if I was talking to Lindsey directly, I would say, okay, great, you can do this, but eventually ski racing will come to an end and you need to figure out your life outside of skiing or balanced with skiing, where ski racing isn't everything. I think one thing I've observed from working for and with a couple of World Cup skiers is that when you have any level of elite athlete, they don't always build out the best balance in their lives. They've kind of got all of their eggs in one basket. Ski racing, running, people who are really good at things, a lot of their self-value is tied to being good at that. And if you have a bad race, if your career ends, it can be really, really traumatic and really hard to figure out who you are outside of that thing. And I guess my only word of caution would be if you can keep going and doing this and it makes you happy and you're not worried about results, go for it, right? She's not hurting anyone. A lot of people are benefiting from this, maybe even her, but 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, whatever, eventually this is going to come to an end. I know that in her personal life, Lindsey has had things going on. I'm not here to speculate or critique her on that. Everyone has stuff in their personal life. I've had friends that broke up over COVID. It's just very common. You go into COVID, you're stuck together all the time, and you learn a lot about each other really rapidly. So there's no critique or judgment there. I'm just saying that like that happened to her, and then she went into retirement, and then she went through knee surgeries. And there's just gotta be a lot of change in Lindsey's life. And so I hope that she's not going back to ski racing as a way of rerouting her life, because you can't go back in time and relive your glory days as the best female ski racer of a generation. But I don't know that that's necessarily what's happening here. I guess that would be my only word of caution to Lindsey. Are you doing this because you love skiing and you think you have more to contribute and you wanna have fun and enjoy the process? That's coming at it from a very healthy perspective. But if you're doing this just to reroute your life and to avoid facing the inevitable retirement, make sure that's not what's happening, because a lot of people do that. A lot of people don't want to face the facts of like, oh, I put all my eggs into this basket and now I need to figure out who I am outside of ski racing and outside of skiing. I don't know. I would just make sure that whatever you're doing, maybe you're talking to a therapist or a professional. I'm certainly not that, but just making sure that you're not using ski racing as a means of escaping the realities of day-to-day life. But that all being said, like a lot of the speculation I've seen, it's like, this is super beneficial for Lindsey, you know, this is super beneficial for the US ski team more than anyone. Lord knows, like we have Michaela Schifrin, right? But if you think about women's US skiing and you take out Michaela Schifrin and maybe like Alice Robinson, we don't have a lot of depth and we don't get a lot of coverage. We in America do not treat ski racing as well as most European countries. So this is a huge get for everyone. It's a huge get for World Cup viewership. This is gonna stir a bunch of interest in the sport. All of Lindsey's sponsors, I'm sure, are through the moon excited about this. I think it only speaks to Lindsey's athleticism and her commitment to her training and being in the kind of shape that she can still do this even after years of retirement. If you followed her on Instagram, it's like every other story is her working out. Clearly she's been very committed to that. So I think that's great. The only thing that I think is a little embarrassing or negative, I do think this shines a light on some of the pretty big issues that the US ski culture has as a whole. Like most other countries have a lot of depth on the World Cup circuit. We get like a couple of stars and then that's it. We had a lot of depth when you look back at like when Andrew Weibrecht, Bodie Miller, Ted Ligety, or even before that with like Darren Rolfs and Eric Schlopey, and we had Steven Nyman. We had all these great skiers that were kind of on the team together. And now it seems like it's dwindled down, and most European teams have a lot of depth, and then we get like a couple of stars here and there. Obviously we have Michaela Schifrin, who is gonna go down in the history books and has already gone down in the history books as one of the greatest skiers of all time. Lindsey Vonn is, in my opinion, one of the greatest of all time, especially when you pair that with like Julian Mancuso, right? If you look at like the numbers, you have two rivals that are just eating everything up. I mean, they were all just tremendous skiers. But now we're not putting out a lot of volume. We get one or two stars, and look at the people that came out of that. You had Michaela Schifrin, who was out of Colorado, and then she went to the Berg Mountain Academy program. And then we have Lindsey, who was out of Buck Hill, and then she had to go over to Colorado and train out of Aspen. It's like, we're not very good at cultivating skiers inside of their programs. They have to be almost like exported out, and a lot of times really good athletes get weeded out because of money. Not everybody has the money to relocate their child to a ski academy or to a program like that. I mean, if you look at a really high contrast sport, a good example is running. Running, what do you need? You need shoes, right? Even in certain parts of the world, they don't even do that. When there's a low barrier to entry, you get a high pool of really athletic and talented people. What's happened in the US with climate change and winters being different is now only really wealthy people can get that much mileage on snow. And it's people who can either go to a ski academy in the northern part of the US, like Berg Mountain Academy, where I'm from, or in Colorado, where you have high altitude, and you don't get as many people like, you know, Bodie Miller's a good example where, you know, he was kind of in New Hampshire and he came up through that system. Now we've just got a handful of people who happen to have the talent, the discipline, and the means, like the wealth to do that. And I think we're finally starting to see the results of that. There's dwindling interest in ski racing, there's dwindling talent, and I won't say like, obviously Michaela is extraordinarily talented. Best of a generation, easily. 1 in a million. But we're not seeing the depth behind her to follow up. And the fact that Lindsey can take time off after retirement, after her years on snow, to me it says more about the status of American skiing and American ski racing culture than it does about Lindsey Vonn at all. I don't know how you fix it. everything has just gotten inaccessible. A lot of other countries, there's more support for athletes long-term. I think programs like, you know, Cochrane's ski area where you've got a rope tow and things are really affordable. There are programs that are trying to combat that. But as a whole, I think this shows a pretty glaring issue with the talent and accessibility to American ski racing. I'll be interested to see how Lindsey Vonn performs. A lot of people seem to get wrapped up in like, well, now she's 40. And it's like, okay, she was in her like mid to late 30s. It'd be different if she was like really talented in her 20s, retired for 20 years and went back in her 40s. She must know something we don't. I bet she must be at least competitive to the point where she thinks she can get into the mix. I don't expect a gold medal or, you know, like a podium right away, but if she wants to do it and she can do it in a healthy and safe way, who cares, right? Like, if you could go out and just ski a World Cup race for a day, knowing you wouldn't get hurt or you could do it safely, I would do that, wouldn't you? But anyway, that's just my opinion as a, you know, washed up middle-aged dude in his backyard. You know, I think that that's one nice thing about skiing in college is you kind of get a grip. And maybe it was just a coach I had that was like, this isn't everything, right? This is a fun thing we do. This is great. And you want to do your best and it's fun to improve. But what are your long-term goals as a person? And I think that my coach, Ron Bonneau, really cultivated that, and I'm grateful for it. And I hope for Lindsey that she is able to find that. And maybe this is just like the next couple of years is like, you know, a farewell to the sport, or, you know, one last dance. I'm sure she has it in her, but this can't go on forever. And if I was a close friend of hers, I would just recommend that, like, eventually you need to make peace with this and find fulfillment outside of this. And maybe that's not even outside of sport, maybe coaching, maybe doing, you know, like being involved in the community, whatever. But like just putting your skis on in the World Cup starting gate, it can't go on forever. So anyway, kind of a different video. I hope you enjoyed it. I know that like these kind of videos aren't always as popular as my other ones, but it was something I wanted to talk about and something I care about. And you know, we'll have more ski gear content coming up in the week. As always, if you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing. We have memberships down below if you want to get your emails read when I do questions and answers. There are a ton of ski deals going on right now. The whole industry is having inventory issues, so I will put links from my ski deal video. You can watch that video or just click through the links down below. Those affiliate links do support the channel without costing anything extra. But as always, just, I don't know, all that stuff aside, more than anything, thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I really appreciate you guys being here and giving me a platform to talk, even when it's about silly things like, you know, one of the greatest skiers of all times and some washed up guy talking about her. I really appreciate that you guys take time out of your day. It means a ton to me. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. See ya.